Hello, my name is Shirley Foxnose, City Clerk for the City of Tampa, and this is Tampa's Oral Histories. Tampa's Oral Histories is a production of the City Clerk's Office and City of Tampa Television. Today we have the oral history of Governor Bob Martinez, the 54th mayor of the City of Tampa and the first mayor of Tampa to be elected as governor of Florida. He was the 40th governor of Florida and the first grandson of Spanish immigrants to become governor of Florida since the colonial period. Governor Martinez has many memories of Tampa and much to tell about his time as mayor and governor. Without further ado, let's hear from Governor Martinez.
I really had a fabulous childhood. A lot of it had to do where my parents lived, which was with my grandparents. And I was an only child, so I was the only little one in the household. And the next oldest cousin I had was 8 years later, so I was the only child in the whole family for a fairly long period of time. We lived on Ivy Street, which is about 5 blocks north of Columbus Drive. It was rural. There were the dirt streets. I lived on the dirt street, Ivy Street. The house is still there. It doesn't look like it used to, but it's still there. 2523 Ivy Street. And a streetcar line ran in front of that house, and it was a dirt road. And in fact, there were only parts of three paved streets north of Columbus Drive in those days, with Tampa Bay Boulevard being the most northerly street paved. And so we kind of grew up in a rural environment where there weren't that many kids because it was sparsely populated. I was born to the Depression, don't remember it because I was a little bit young. And then came the Second World War, where there was money, but there was scarcity of what you could buy. And we had about 1.5 acres planted in crops because everyone was encouraged back in those days to grow crops. We had cows, chickens. Every kid in my neighborhood had an air gun. And of course it was during the war, so all games were about war. So everybody had their Bowie knife and their, it was really woodsy. Everybody had bow and arrows as well, so we kind of grew up in that kind of environment where it was free play, not organized play. It was safe to go anywhere you wanted. My restrictions as a kid back in those days is don't go south of Columbus Drive and don't go north of Tampa Bay. North of Tampa Bay, the only thing that was there was the school that's still there that I attended. The rest of it was nothing but swamp and dairyland, and so all the dairies were on Tampa Bay Boulevard and what today is called Himes. There was no Himes Avenue then, but that was dairyland. And the Spaniards owned most of those dairies. From Tampa Bay Boulevard, then I went to West Tampa Junior High, which the building no longer exists. It was on Havana, where today there's an elementary school. And there was an elementary school behind West Tampa Junior High called Quest Elementary, which then I think has been also knocked down, and the new elementary is called Quest, I think. And then from there I went on to Jefferson High School. Well, I went to the University of Tampa to get my bachelor's degree, and I got the degree in social science. And I taught for about 3.5 years, and had taken a liking to labor and industrial relations. And there was no way to get a degree in the South back in those days. It wasn't offered. All that, I'm talking about an advanced degree. The advanced degrees was either an Ivy League school, a Big Ten school, or a Pacific Coast school that offered those degrees. So I started to get a little restless. I was at Oak Grove Junior High, and I wanted to do something else. So
how long did you teach?
See, I was probably 26, 27 at the time, and our son had just been born in 1991. So I applied to the University of Illinois in Cornell, and I decided to go to Illinois, University of Illinois. So that January '62, with a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old, we packed the car and headed to Champaign-Urbana in the middle of winter. And showed up, I was admitted, but showed up without housing. When we got there, temperature was like in the 20s when we arrived. Of course, we're both Floridians, and other than a cool snap here and there, never lived in cold weather. But fortunately found housing, very good housing, almost instantly. And so stayed up there a year, came back because I needed to finish up in the summer, but sort of ran out of money. So came back, went to Chamberlain High School, and taught 12th grade for 3.5 years. And during that period of time, returned to Illinois, finished the degree, and then I started representing management and labor and industrial relations. And from that, the teachers hired me. So then I stopped representing management and went to represent the teachers. And did that for about 9 years. And then my uncle, my mother's brother, had started a restaurant in West Tampa on Dewey Street, about 2 blocks from where I was born and grew up, called the Cafe Sevilla. So I bought it, and my wife and I bought it, and became an operator as well. And I just bought it, actually operated it, and did so till I got elected mayor in '79. So Clint Brown, his wife Cindy, would come on Friday nights, kind of on the late side, 9 o'clock or so, to have dinner. Then by then things had slowed down where we could actually sit down and talk to them and have dinner, and people were mainly going out, not coming in already once you got beyond 9 o'clock. So the subject would come up that you need to run for mayor, and Mayor Pohl said he's not running for re-election. And so I said, how am I going to run for mayor when I've got to be here every day, you know, lunch and dinner? And this went on for months and months and months, and finally, I don't know, I think it was maybe October of '78. I know it was the fall of '78, either October or November. I said, all right, I'll do it. And that's sort of how it happened. No talking to anybody else, no polling, no calling a whole bunch of people, should I do it or not. I said, all right, I'll do it. And which is kind of what I did for governor, the same thing. I think it's the city became alive. The towers went up downtown, the office towers, which is a sign of vitality. The Performing Arts Center went up. The financing and the location of the convention center was determined. One of frankly, my pet projects was the restoration of City Hall, which had been almost destroyed with plywood paneling everywhere and air conditioning units hanging out the windows. And so we were able to find $2.5 or $3 million, shut it down completely, and restored it. And it's one of the finer moments, I think, for the city of Tampa to have preserved that building. You know, there's some things you're driven you had to do. When I took office, the EPA had shut down Tampa's landfills. So we had to deal with what to do with the garbage, and that's where we had to go to the Hillsborough County garbage out in Taylor landfill until we had the refuse to energy plant built. I didn't get elected to think I was going to have to build a refuse to energy plant, but there it was. It was disappointing that our zoo, Lowry Park Zoo back then, got cited as being a deplorable place to house wildlife or animals, and yet it turned out to be the best thing for us in terms of knocking it down and starting all over again. It probably hadn't been cited. It might have been done at some point, but I'm not sure it would have been done at the time it did occur. But I think the quality of life, you know, right before I took office, Bill Poe cut the ribbon for the museum, which we knocked down and built a new one, but the Fine Arts Museum, you know, got built, and that showed a step, you know, up as well for the community. West Shore was becoming alive as an office location, and the West Shore Plaza, the urban center went up. All these things, so the city all of a sudden it was a place to go to. Restaurants started to pop up where before, there were very few restaurants. By restaurants, I'm talking about higher end restaurants. So, you've got to first, the old saying, build and they'll come. There's some truth to it. That if you build something, they'll come. And there's no doubt that as we build, people came, and they're still coming. Well, it's something you never dream of doing, obviously. You go around from being able to drive your own car and go anywhere you want to all of a sudden security being with you all the time, and your wife, and on occasion your kids required it because of some possible threat that may have occurred. And of course you live in a very big house with people doing everything for you, quite frankly, from cooking to taking care of laundry and driving you wherever you needed to go. So it's a totally different way of life. They're great people. The people that work at the governor's mansion have gone through a number of governors, and the governors don't touch them. The chefs come and go because chefs are chefs. They get bored with what they're doing and then move on. But the other people were career. I've gone to a couple of the retirement parties recently that just retired from the service at the mansion. Your law enforcement people, the detail that you have, they stay with you pretty much on rotation, obviously, but they become like family. They tell you about their kids and their problems, and they know more about you than anybody else because you're with them all the time when you travel. So, and then of course, you have the main reason you're there, which is public policy. And city government's retail. It's a business. What you do, the end user is the taxpayer, the consumer, whether it's water or sewer or police or fire. State and federal is our regulatory group. They're regulating what you can do, what you can't do. They're transferring money for others to spend. It's philosophical, so there's combat over philosophy. And in Florida, other than Jacksonville, cities are nonpartisan in elections, so it reduces the conflict to some degree because of that. And basically what you're doing is making sure the trains run on time. The streets are clean, traffic lights work, water delivery is pure, collecting wastewaters without hitches, garbage is picked up on time. These are all businesses. They're all separate businesses. And you can evaluate them real easy. You can't evaluate policy often. It's multi-year to determine if the policy is working or not. And there's philosophical. Once you go into policy, there's philosophy. So, although it's a bigger arena, you also have, and you have more people helping, you see less. It's bigger. You may recall that I travel the city every weekend. Well, I couldn't do that as governor. I couldn't travel the state every. You're lucky to get a speech and come back. So you depend more and more on reports, executive reports, press clippings. Back then, today it's all digital video, but back then it was press clippings, news articles to find out what's right, what's wrong. So you don't see it often. You're being told about it. But nevertheless, you have education you're responsible for. You have the whole criminal legal system you're responsible for. You got environmental issues you got responsible for. You got the highway systems you're responsible for. It goes on and on and on. Florida has back then what they call a weak form of governor. You had 6 elected cabinet members, and the governor and a lot of agencies answered to them, not to the governor. And today there's only 3 of those. There were 6 when I was governor. And fewer agencies answered the governor cabinet than when I was governor. So a lot of agencies, the governor didn't run. There was a collective management, which meant no management, basically, in my view. And so it's what I call more of a weak governor system than we have today. That changed, I think, in 2002 or 4, when the voters amended the Constitution and got rid of the Commissioner of Education, got rid of the Secretary of State, got rid of the Comptroller, got rid of the Treasurer, and then created as Chief Financial Officer and left Agriculture and left Attorney General. So it's quite different than when I was governor. But it's I mean, you get to meet presidents, obviously, and governors from other states, and visiting presidents of other countries. You know, they come through Florida to come visit. So it's an incredible privilege and honor to have that opportunity. And is it hard work? Sure, but what isn't? You know, everybody has hard work. Whatever they do in life often is hard work. I would say that when I got done with almost 20 years of public life, I came home and picked up where I had left off before in your public life. You know, I became chairman of the Greater Tampa Chamber of Commerce. I chaired the Committee of 100 for 2 cycles. You know, trustee of the University of Tampa. I just got termed out of the History Center Board. I'm the Lawrence Park Zoo Board, Hillsborough Education Foundation Board. So I never let the office I held in any way restrict what I wanted to do once I left public office.